Hello, friends. Welcome to the Omega Conversation series. My name is Michael Kraft, and on behalf of the Omega staff and wider community, I welcome you to today's conversation. I just see already from the chats that we have people on from throughout the Northeast, Mid-Atlantic region and states, Puerto Rico, Vancouver, Toronto, Florida, New Orleans, Detroit, Los Angeles, Minneapolis, Peru, Dublin, Ireland, and many others. So welcome to all of you. Today, it's my tremendous pleasure to welcome my dear friends to a call for a deeper awareness and unconditional love with Ollie Smith, Andy Gonzalez, and Atman Smith of the Holistic Life Foundation. The Holistic Life Foundation has been bringing practices of mindfulness, yoga, and self-compassion to more than 10,000 at-risk youth and adults in some of Baltimore's most challenged neighborhoods and throughout the United States and beyond. They have done incredible work that has been featured on NBC Nightly News with Brian Williams, in the book of Mindful Nation with Congressman Tim Ryan, and in several magazines, including Mindful, Shambhala, Shambhala Sun, and Yoga Journal. Currently, they're partnering with Johns Hopkins and Penn State Universities on a federally funded research trial on the effectiveness of yoga and mindfulness on urban youth. And they have also developed an extraordinary teacher training program that has graduating people through their yoga and mindfulness training to continue their work with kids and also young adults everywhere. I love them very deeply. They're wonderful people. And I'm so grateful to welcome Ollie, Andy, and Atman. And my dear friends, please come on. And as an intro, please tell us all how you three came together on the work of the Holistic Life Foundation.
Hey, Michael, thanks for having us. We love you a lot too, man. We miss you.
Yeah, definitely. I love you and everybody out there.
I guess I'll jump into how we got started. Atman's my brother, so I've been stuck with him my whole life. I didn't really have a choice. I guess I would have picked him if I had to, but yeah, he's all right, brother. But we grew up in West Baltimore. Our parents were yogis. Atman always calls them hood hippies. Like West Baltimore, like home of where the Freddie Gray uprising started, where The Wire was filmed, that part of West Baltimore, north of Pulaski. Right there is where we grew up. A lot different back then than it is now. So it had that village vibe back then, a lot of love, a lot of caring. Our tribe was really big at that point. People that helped raise us and helped mold us into the people we were. Our parents were into a lot of different things than a lot of people we knew. Actually, that most people we knew, whether they were in our neighborhood or in other places. Our mom raised us in a vegan household, so no salt, no sugar, no animal products at all. Our dad was really into hatha yoga, and
Ollie, you gotta tell him the story, Ollie. You gotta tell him
I'll tell about the snowballs. You love that story. So Andy loves this story. It was traumatic to me and Atman growing up. But we in Baltimore, snowball stands are huge. Some places they call them shaved ice. But you go and you get like the ice and you get the bright sugary colors pumped onto them. But since we couldn't have sugar, our mom would make us bring them home, and she would pour like organic orange juice or apple juice on them. So our friends would have these bright sugary colors, and we would have dull orange or dull brown snowballs, and our friends would like make fun of us. And it was cool. I think me and Atman got smart as we got older, and now-laters were huge in Baltimore. So it was like, but they would turn your tongue like purple or red for the colors that we had. So we figured out how early in the day we would have to eat a now-later and be gone all day, and how much water we would have to drink, and how much tongue scrubbing we would have to do to have it off of our tongue by the time we would get back home, so we wouldn't get in trouble. So we knew what we were doing. Just as far as the yoga mindfulness stuff goes, our dad got into yoga before we were born from our godfather and teacher, Uncle Will. And he had a prostate issue. He showed him 3 poses, didn't even tell him what it was, and cured his prostate issue. Hadn't had a prostate issue to this day. And our dad got really deeply into the practice. So when we were born, we had to, I don't ever really remember not meditating when we were kids. So like we grew up meditating every morning before school. It was just a part of what we did. We weren't really into the physical practice, no breath work, no meditation at that point. It was just the meditation practice. We grew up in a self-realization fellowship church, the Divine Life Church of Absolute Oneness. So like based on Kriya Yoga and Kriya Yoga philosophy. So it was all about like the commonality, the common threads and the truths that were all the same through all religious and spiritual practices. Went to Friends School of Baltimore, Quaker school. The Quakers were awesome. All about stewardship, celebrating diversity, but also celebrating oneness, taking a pause before you did anything. And then like the meeting for worship practice was also a big part of what we did throughout the day. So they planted all these seeds when we were growing up. And then they got divorced, I guess, when I was in 5th grade. Nathan was in 3rd grade. So our meditation practice stopped. We started eating meat. We started really living, you know what I mean? And we went through, and by the time we met Andy in college, we were all pretty wild dudes. Hip hop and alcohol were what brought us to Andy in the universe, I guess, and the combination of hip hop, alcohol, and the universe brought us together. We had some common friends. We partied a lot. We bonded, and then there was like a point where we started asking questions about the world as we were about to graduate, and we decided that there had to be more to life than just the whole, graduate from college, get married, have kids, work, retire, and die. Like there had to be something more to this existence, and there seemed to be a lot of suffering and a lot of apathy towards like the people on the planet and the planet. So our partying turned into a book club. We started reading a lot, and Uncle Will was somebody who was always around and trying to push yoga and meditation and breath work on us and get us back into it, but put us on the path. But it wasn't wrong place, wrong time. Like we weren't really into it. And I think at that point we were looking for answers, and a lot of books that we read talked about finding the answers within you. And yoga seemed to be the place to tap into those answers. And Atman saw a book on his altar, and the rest was history from there. It's a Yogi Bhajan book, and it was just like all these cool yogic practices that you could do. We're huge. We're really, really into Star Wars and superheroes, and that book seemed to be the path to becoming superheroes. So that was why we jumped in. Superheroes or Jedis, however you wanted to look at it. So we asked him about that book.
Oh, and I was going to add, and like Ali was saying, at that time, man, in college, we were very, very wild. So to see the transition in us, like mentally, physically, spiritually, and emotionally, when we did start diving into the practice, we just knew that this was the look within that everybody was talking about in the books. Like that was the key.
Yeah, and Uncle Will told us that he only had 2 stipulations on him dumping all the information that he had been gathering since, I guess, the early 60s. He had been studying all different forms of yoga and yoga practices and self-healing arts, where he was just like, look, as long as you guys show up at my door at 4 a.m. tomorrow morning and you guys promise to go out and teach as many people as you possibly can, I will dump all this information on you. And that was where, I guess, the holistic life, that was the roots of the Holistic Life Foundation. And like Atman was saying, the practice spoke so much to us that we had to figure out an outlet to be able to share it with as many people as possible.
Yeah, just to build on that, I think that practice is so essential to all of us. I'm sure everyone who's listening and watching right now, they've had that same experience themselves. How, once we did start delving deeper and going inward, we noticed that transformation occurring. And we always say that you start looking and seeing the world through different eyes and hearing the world through different ears and experiencing life in a completely different manner. And instead of strangers being strangers, you notice that they were just reflections of yourself. You saw yourself within everyone and everything, and that compassion and empathy and love for everyone really was just emanating from us. And we knew that we had to share this feeling that we had. It was a time of a lot of strife and turmoil. It was right around 2001 when 9/11 occurred, and people were just freaking out and stressed out and so overwhelmed. And we were living in Northwest Baltimore, and not the nicest of neighborhoods. We're pretty broke. Like our situation wasn't that great, but we were just blissing out, and we were so happy. And people would always question us and ask us, why are you so happy? Why are y'all like this? And we were like, we meditate. Maybe you should give it a try. And I think that transformation from us being wild and crazy to going inward and really starting our own journeys and paths really was the key to our happiness and our bliss. And we just wanted to share that with as many people as we could.
And during these days and times right now where we're all kind of confined into our houses, I am really appreciative of like what Ali said when Uncle Will stressed it was like, no, I want you all to become teachers. And that's why everybody that we teach, we try to get them to become teachers as well, just for times like this. So you'll have enough resources in your toolbox, not only to help yourself, but to help other people. And that's what this practice is really about, is, you know, getting your own body, mind, emotions in check, and then making sure that everybody's in check around you or supported or grounded. And, you know, that's the beauty of being a teacher in this practice.
Can you tell us a little bit about the kind of practices that you're teaching now and that you start people off with, and maybe even look at what you're practicing as well?
I think it's kind of two fronts at this point. Yeah, Kashin, we see you. So it's kind of like a two-pronged attack at this point. We've been doing the Holistic Life Foundation for almost 20 years now, with a focus in schools and in communities, and it's a lot of the practice for its physical, mental, and emotional benefits. You know what I mean? It's a lot of the physiological, neurological benefits that you see from the practice. So it's movement through yoga or Tai Chi. It's breath work, and it's some awareness practices. I think a lot of what we learned and what we practice on our own is a lot more of a spiritual form of the practice. So it's a lot more about that deeper connection through your meditation, not just like being aware of your thoughts or aware of your breath, but being aware of your true, like, infinite self, like that universal spark within you, and connecting to it and kind of letting it shine throughout your day. I remember when we were first talking to Uncle Will, our teacher, and he was talking about prayer versus meditation. He was like, prayer is when you're asking the universe for something, and meditation is when you're actually stilling yourself to listen to see what that universal energy inside of you is saying back. So I think that's what we practice on our own, as a more deeper spiritual practice. And we just actually started a for-profit called the Involution Group, where we're going to actually be teaching a lot of those practices that we do on our own, in our own practice, stuff that we can't teach in schools. People might see it as crossing a certain line, but I mean, we can stick to those kind of surface level-ish practices in schools and in communities, but we want to be able to teach people more about what really speaks to us about the practice, and the things that have helped us, and the things we teach to our loved ones around us, but we might not be able to teach to other people.
Yeah, and when we do actually go into schools, it's basically, a skeleton class that we follow. Like Ali said, Kashim is on there. He's been to one of our trainings at the Omega Institute, and we have like a skeleton where we start off modeling, good behavior, right behavior, what you should and shouldn't do with our staff. Then we get into some belly breathing to kind of get the kids aware of the fact that they are about to do a mindfulness and contemplative practice. Then, working with kids in schools, they have a lot of restless energy. So before you can actually sit them down to do breathing to still their mind, you have to get that restless energy out. So that's where the physical practice, the asanas, and all that stuff comes into play. Then we get into some specific breathing practices or pranayama practices that still their mind, so they can actually go deeper into their meditation, which is guided, because if you lead a meditation and have too much space in there, kids that have gone through trauma, and a lot of our kids, or everybody is going through trauma right now. So if you have a lot of that space when you're introducing these practices to kids, that trauma can arise. So that's why we usually lead with guided meditation when we're talking and leading them the whole time. But that's how we do in the classroom. And that introduces them to the surface level of the practices. But like Ali said, we definitely are see that this is a time that's needed where we need to go a little deeper in the practice to serve humanity in a different light.
Atman, I don't want to harp on it too much, but you've had extraordinary results with these kids too. I mean, haven't you seen a lot of lives turned around? Can you say a little bit about that? Because it really shows the efficacy of these practices.
Definitely. I guess in our first group of students, we had this gentleman. I'm not even going to mention his name because he would love it. He would love the shine. He loves the shine. Ali and Andy already know what I'm talking about. But he was a good kid, always smiled. He was in our first group. And when he got into high school, it's difficult growing up in Baltimore City The streets are very attractive to people. And, he was a star athlete, but he was kind of drawn to, I guess, being on the street, hustling, selling drugs and, all that type of stuff. And he ended up dropping out of school. And then, I drove in a neighborhood where he was at with this whole group of kids, and I knew what he was doing, and I called him over to my car, and I was like, "Yo, you need to get your life in order. Call me if you need some help." And then, he hit us up, and then he also called his high school lacrosse coach, and he ended up with the practice. He had the fortitude inside himself to see that he wanted to make a change. He got himself back into school. Graduated from high school, ended up going to college, playing lacrosse at Limestone College and winning a national championship in Baltimore, in his hometown at the Baltimore Ravens Stadium. Go Ravens. Now I think the coolest thing is he's worked every single part of our in the Holistic Life Foundation. He started off as, programmatic staff working in our after school program. Then he went into our Mindful Moment program, where we have the alternative to suspension room that, is getting nationally attention. And, a lot of people are duplicating it, which is a beautiful thing. Then he went into being our senior staff and traveling and, doing artist in residence program, where he would completely immerse himself in schools along with a couple of our other senior staff. And then as we expanded as an organization, he headed up our mentoring program, and now he is the liaison between our board and our administrative staff, and also gets contracts. So that's a success story. A kid that, started off as one of those 15 kids that were, had some issues going on that needed a little extra support. He went from there, from our after school program to our mentoring program to our workforce development program to college, graduated from college, then worked every aspect of our program. Now is on the administrative level. And if you can't see that's a success story, I don't know what is.
That's awesome. And that shows that you have several generations now of students growing up to be teachers in their own right. Ali, will you say a little bit about the work you're doing outside of Baltimore too, because you're working with many other communities?
Yeah, it's so when we started the Holistic Life Foundation, we decided that we were going to start in Baltimore because, if you cut us open, it's bleeding orange and black. Like, we love our city a lot, but we wanted to start here, but we wanted to make an impact around the world, and we weren't really sure how that was going to go or the way we were going to do that. So, we do a lot of trainings, a lot of speaking engagements, and a lot of workshops around the world, but I think that we wanted to figure out a more sustainable way to do it. So we started a satellite program. Big shout out to our family up in Akwesasne, upstate New York, right on the Canadian border. We set up a really cool satellite program there, where we have Mary is our program coordinator up there. Amazing young lady. Jennifer Hutchins is like our soul sister. She helped us put the whole thing together. There were a lot of other people that helped us put it together, but what it is we're going to send 2 of our senior staff to live on the reservation for a year. And while they're up there, they're going to teach everywhere in the community, schools, drug treatment centers, senior facilities, any and everywhere they can possibly get to. Atman, Andy, and I will spend some time up there doing some training of some 18 to 24-year-olds during that year. We'll go up 5 times. And our program coordinator will kind of orchestrate the entire thing with the support of our infrastructure here in Baltimore. So at the end of that year, they'll have some young people, 18 to 24-year-olds. Our goal is to have 5 really trained up really, really well by the end of that year, so we can bring our staff back home and things are self-sustaining up there with the continued support of HLF. The cool thing about that is, like, we've always thought that the best solutions were homegrown solutions. So, like, we could go there and make an impact, but people who are from there and from a community and live there and know, like, the flavor of the community, like, they understand the struggles, they understand what it's like from being there, they can make the biggest impact. So we go there, supply them with the tools, supply them with the infrastructure, and they take over. We're working on setting up one in the Dade County area as well, down in Florida, and looking for a couple other places. But Akwesasne is going to be a place that we start.
That's really amazing work, and I know you're having a lot of contacts with people around the nation. So now we know a little bit about what you're doing. What do you think about all three of you, what do you think about what's going on right now? How are people impacted by this pandemic and the shutdown?
Somebody want to start?
Yeah, I mean, I'll go ahead and start with that. I mean, I think, initially with our organization is a little bit of an issue for us. You can imagine with schools shutting down, and that's where a lot of our programs really take action. So some of our staff it's an issue to make sure that people are still making a living for themselves, right? And being able to pay for their expenses. So I think just in general, most of the people we've been in contact, there's a sense of worry, fear, anxiety. What's to come? What's gonna happen? When I walk outside, am I gonna get sick? Am I gonna get someone else sick? I was just talking to someone the other day about how amazing it is, this situation that we're in and what we're going through, and some of the experiences that all of us are facing. And I feel a lot of it really is mentally. Of course, there's the horrific events that are going on with the pandemic and people getting sick and all these lives being lost, but also just what everyone has to deal with on a daily basis. I went and saw my mom the other day, and I called my brother and I was like, yeah, I want to go see mom, but God, it would really suck to be the one to kill mom, right? And I don't mean to make this humorous, but it really does. It's horrible to think that was on my mind, something that I would have never thought of that before, that I could be the one to do that, because I want to go and give my mom a hug and give her a kiss on the cheek. I mean, we're Latino. That's how we greet each other. If I didn't give my mom a hug when I came in the house, she'd look at me like, what is wrong with you, man? So I think a lot of people are just overwhelmed with what's going on. I think they're struggling, mentally and financially, and I think it's a burden. I'm hoping that what we can do is we can try to provide individuals with as many of the practices that help us through these times. I feel weird sometimes saying that I'm doing all right, because I know how privileged I am to be able to have a roof over my head and to be able to have this computer that I'm talking on right now to you all, to be able to communicate, to be able to access grocery stores and get the food I need. I almost feel like bad saying, hey, I'm doing all right through this. But I know that at the same time, I want to have a positive mind to this. And I think that it helps if everyone can kind of know that we're going to get through this. We're going to push through it. The human race has lasted for a long time. We're going to keep this up. But I think it just overall struggle, fear, worry, I would say, were the main things that I've noticed with myself, my peers, and a lot of our staff members.
I'll jump in. So it seems like a lot of people I've been talking to have been having issues with being home alone with themselves. I think a lot of it is like a lot of people aren't used to the quiet, the stillness, and not having distractions. And like a lot of people are used to like outside stimulus, like kind of like being able to distract them, like whether it's work, whether it's their kids. But I think now it's just people are sitting at home by themselves. And a lot of people I've been talking to are realizing that they don't enjoy their own company. I think a lot of what we deal with is that unconditional love, but I think people have to unconditionally love themselves first. You got to be able to see the light in yourself before you see it in other people, or it doesn't really work the opposite way. Like you got to be able to love yourself first. And I think people get caught up on like their ego self, like the parts of themselves that they may not love or like, they think are bad. Then negative chatter starts and they start watching the news and things get even more depressing. And like they start that downward spiral instead of connecting with like their true, like that omniscient, omnipotent, omnipresent, like universal self inside of them. I think that's what you got to connect to, and you got to love that first. So I think a lot of people would enjoy being around themselves a lot more if they connected to that instead of the parts about themselves that they didn't really like or they didn't think were serving them. I know, like my practice has been fantastic since quarantine has started. Like my pranayama practice, my breathwork practice hasn't been this good since like 2003. You know what I mean? But I have time. You know what I mean? I have time to meditate. I have time to do all these things. Like I've tried all these new recipes. I made some habanero jelly. I brewed some beer. Like I've been doing pranayama sessions with my parents on FaceTime. Like it's just, taking advantage of like all the, like the blessing of time, because it's something that we usually don't have. Like the hustle and bustle of life just keeps you going and going and going. And if you feel like you're rushed doing everything, like this is like a good universal slowdown. Like it's a pause. Like the earth is getting a chance to heal. Like there's all these beautiful things going on. Like there's some horrible things going on with the COVID virus. Don't get me wrong, but like if you look big picture, like Mother Earth is finally getting a chance to heal herself up, like which is something that's been needed for a while. Like I bought a bird feeder. Like I connect with the birds on my back deck every day. You know what I mean? Like just trying to find those little things. Like I can take walks in the evenings with my sons. You know what I mean? On the days that they're with me, we walk around the neighborhood. And my oldest son was like, Dad, like if this wasn't going, like it sucks that it's not going, this is going on, but like we wouldn't be able to do this like normally during the week, like with homework and lacrosse practice and all these other things going on. Like the slowdown has allowed us just to stop and pause and go for a walk. Like it's just simple things like that I think people need to look at. Like stay safe, take care of yourself. I think one of the things that I've enjoyed most throughout all of this is Atman and I have been, we quarantined our parents. Like we totally shut them down. Like they're locked in. But then there's a lot of older people that we love and that have helped raise us and have had our backs throughout our entire lives, like unconditionally. So just keeping them in the house and like getting them to text this grocery list where we can go grocery shopping for them, put our masks on. We have our mobile hand washing stations. We have like 2 full Gatorade bottles full of water and some soap. So like washing our hands in between store runs and like just dropping groceries off at the door, knock on the door, back up, talk to them from 10 feet away and just keep them nice and safe. So I think it's just trying to make the best of a really, really terrible and a really, really sad situation and looking for the blessings in it.
And just to add to that, I know Sharon Salzberg always says like, I guess when a new day begins, like it gives you a chance to begin again. And if you kind of look at a lot of systems, they weren't really helping the people, helping, society move in, a healthy way. And, like just talking about the educational system, the way that our kids are wired now, it's like they're not really set up for success to be able to sit down with 30 kids in a classroom all day long, and maybe they might get gym. You know what I mean? So maybe like Ali was saying, that through all this chaos, which is horrible, shout out to, all of the first responders, all the people working in grocery stores, trashmen, like everybody who's still out there, much love to them and, anybody affected by the virus. But it might give us a chance to, like Ali said, connect more with our family. Like we were really robotic. We weren't really, like Andy always says, we're like human doings instead of human beings. We're getting a chance to be, and like look at our connections with our family, look at our connections with ourselves. Most importantly, how can we make ourselves stronger physically, emotionally? You have to feed your soul, and this is the time to really take advantage of that. And there is a lot of chaos going on, but like in a book that my uncle suggested that we read when we first got into the practice, called The Holy Science. It's a very thin book by Swami Sri Jukesha, where they talk about different ages and yugas. And they talk about when there are transitions in consciousness and in living and spirit and all that stuff, that there is chaos. There's those old ideals holding on and new ideas busting through. Like, you all can see the new ideas are busting through, like with the popularity of yoga, mindfulness, contemplative practices, veganism, like all that type of stuff. So I think honestly that this is a time where there is a lot of chaos going on, but we just have to navigate, keep our loved ones healthy, be mindful, keep social distancing, but look at ways that we can strengthen ourselves and help push this, movement of a higher consciousness and a higher way of living forward. We have to be like the changes, the light changes or whatever.
Is anybody else struggling being a homeschool parent? Can I just see like a show of hands? Anybody else struggling with that? Because like trying to get my own work done and like having kids that love, like they want to be at school and they don't want to be at home. They don't want to be at home on Zoom meetings and doing worksheets. Like it's a struggle. Like I'm big shout out to all the teachers out there that do this every day. Like we just run programs in schools, but prayers all, like we love all the teachers out there.
Yeah, it just gives us a chance to begin again. That's all I'm saying. And whatever that means to you, like look at these opportunities as chances to begin again and see how you can kind of make yourself stronger and make your community stronger.
Will one of you be willing to lead us in a practice now, perhaps a healing or cleansing breath? I think it's a lot of us are interested and inspired by the idea that the yoga practice or mindfulness practice that we may have learned so far has a deeper dimension to it, and it's contemplative. It's also interconnecting and spiritual. So I know you all are all over that. So if you could share that with us for a few minutes, maybe we could do a practice, and then we'll open it up for questions from the wider community.
Yeah.
What practice do we want to do, fellas?
Maybe like the real version of the stress breath, if somebody wants to do that and talk about everything that goes with it.
Yeah. I'll jump on because just in case we have some more time, I'm sure one of y'all will be the one to lead them through a meditation. So we're going to do the stress breath, like Ali said. We call it the stress breath. You can find it in contemplative practices called Ujjayi. That's what it's called, Ujjayi. So the main part of this breath that you really, really want to focus on is making sure that your breath is audible. You do that by closing your glottis. I know that may sound a little weird because you could be like, what in the world is your glottis? But a way that we get people to do it is if you take your hand and you put your hand out and you actually imagine you're like fogging up a mirror, like that. And then you do the same thing. But when you start with your mouth open and then right afterwards, close it. So you're doing it through your nose. So it'd be like, you see how you can hear on the exhale, you can hear the audibleness. When you do that, that's kind of closing your glottis. And you want to do that on your inhale as well so that it's audible the entire time. You can hear it when I go in. And when you go out, you want to make sure it's audible. And what that's doing is that's going to stimulate your vagus nerves. That's going to help with your mind-body connection. With this breath, we also do a lock. So it's in yogic terms, it's called a bandha. And what that is when we inhale, you're going to inhale and you're going to lock your chin to your chest because you want to hold the prana inside of your body. This is a very good exercise, not only for stilling your mind, for helping with that mind-body connection. It's great for stress. That's why we call it the stress breath. It's very good for just letting you be kind of in the present moment and for just clearing all those thoughts out and just helping with anxiety. Did I miss anything in terms of benefits, guys?
Yeah, just one more thing about that breath. So in contemplative practices, particularly in like yogic practices, when you're inhaling, you're not only inhaling just oxygen, you're also inhaling like that life force, that pranic energy. So every time you inhale, you're pulling that energy in. When you lock on your breath, you're dispersing that energy through your body's absorbing it. And then when you're exhaling them out, you're not only pushing out CO2, but you're pushing out stale energy. So like if you use your imagination with this breath, like see and feel like that life force flowing in your body with the inhale. And when you lock on it, like you can either let the energy flow through your body passively or send it to somewhere where you might need some healing or want some healing. And then when you exhale, imagine all that stale or negative energy inside of your body being pushed out with the breath.
And the benefit of that lock there, it kind of puts pressure. Usually when you hold your breath, your heart rate increases, but that's not what happens in this practice. And the reason why when you're holding on to the breath, your heart rate doesn't increase is because you're putting pressure on your carotid sinus. And that kind of enables you, that releasing of that pressure or putting that pressure there makes your heart not speed up. So it's a calming breath when you're holding on to it.
So you can watch my two models here for the first one. The two handsome Smith brothers. There you go. Belg it up, Ali. And so you're going to inhale nice and deep to the nose. You can watch them first. They're going to hold and they're going to lock their chin to their chest. This is during the retention. And then you will exhale and you'll bring your head up while you. I'm going to try to be as mindful as I can during the whole. So we're going to do these. We'll do like 7 of these together. If at any time you feel any type of discomfort from holding your chin, just bring your head up. Okay. I'm going to try to make sure it's not too long that we do that retention. So I welcome you to get into a nice, comfortable seated position. Ideally, you want to have your head, neck, and spine aligned, feet grounded on the floor. And I also welcome you to close your eyes if you feel comfortable doing so. I think it helps block out distractions and let you be more in this present moment. We'll do a few of these together. So everybody inhale nice and deep through your nose. Hold it, lock your chin to your chest. Exhale, bring your head up. Inhale deep. Hold, lock your chin to your chest. Exhale, bring your head up. Inhale deep. Hold, lock your chin to your chest. Exhale, bring your head up. Inhale. Hold, lock your chin to your chest. Exhale, bring your head up. Great job, everyone. We'll do 3 more together. Inhale, nice, slow and deep. Hold, lock your chin to your chest. Exhale, bring your head up. Two more. Inhale deep. Hold, lock your chin to your chest. Exhale and up. On this last one, try to hold it a little bit longer. Push yourself a little. Inhale nice and deep. Hold, lock your chin to your chest. Hold it for as long as you can here. When you feel comfortable doing so, you can go ahead and exhale out. Bring your head up when you finish. And now I invite you, if you have your eyes closed, to keep them closed and just take 3 deep breaths on your own. This is when you're being a scientist. You're doing an internal assessment and you're asking yourself, how does your mind feel? Is it racing with thoughts or is it clear? How does your body feel? Is it tense or is it relaxed? You now know if you ever want to feel this way again, all you have to do is take a few of these breaths. When you finish with that last breath, take your time. You can slowly, slowly blink your eyes open and come back to your senses. All right.
Thank you for that. We're going to be inviting questions now from people who are online. You can raise your hand by clicking on the thing at the bottom. You can see it down there if you is it under participants? Correct. Someone said, I got a little dizzy from the practice.
That happens sometimes. We notice that and people are first starting to get into their pranayamic practice, that if they're not used to bringing in so much oxygen, it can make them feel a little like, whoa, because, the majority of us, when we're breathing, if you take note and you really start paying attention to your breath, we do really shallow breathing. And if anything, a lot of us are mouth breathers. So we're not using the full capacity of our lungs. We're not using our nose for all its benefits. You want to make sure that when you're doing breathing in general, that you're taking nice, long, deep breaths. You're really manipulating your diaphragm and strengthening that muscle so you can get those lower breaths, those belly breaths, and then fully using the full capacity of your lungs. Since the majority of us are like panting, or we're only shooting the air up to the top portion of our lungs, which is only the 10% that we're using because our lungs are shaped kind of like teardrops. We're just shallow breathers and we're not using the full capacity. So you want to make sure you take nice, long, deep, slow breaths. That oxygen helps with cleaning your blood. It helps with digesting your food. And then likewise, you want to make sure that you fully exhale as well. So really push out all that stale CO2 and all those ruminating thoughts that come with your exhalation.
Wonderful. I see we have a question from Durana. And Durana, I'm going to unmute you now. So go ahead.
Hi, I just wanted to hear more about your for-profit company. Can you just tell us a little bit about what the inspiration was? I know you said it was so that you could get deeper into the spiritual teachings, but like how will that manifest itself? What are your future plans regarding your for-profit?
Yeah, so our for-profit is called the Involution Group, and I think it's one of the things where we saw people. We saw that people needed a deeper connection to themselves and not just awareness practices. I think it was one of those things where people were missing out on something, like a deeper connection to themselves, to the people around them, and the stuff that we were able to teach through the Holistic Life Foundation wasn't getting it there, and it was stuff that people would ask us about, but that we couldn't teach through the Holistic Life Foundation because we are teaching in schools. So it's going to come through courses online, workshops, books, curricula, like all types of any and everything. If you go to our website, theinvolutiongroup.com, you can just sign up for, you can just register and you'll get updates as new products come out. But yeah, it's just something that was just kind of like, we felt like we were holding on to a lot of the things that the practices that spoke the most to us and that meant the most learning from our teacher. And I think it was just, we had to figure out a way to share more of those practices with the rest of the world and the rest of the people around us, because they alleviated a lot of, I guess, suffering and lack of connection in us and the people that we love that we could share them with. So we wanted to be able to bring it to a broader audience. So that was what we did.
And it was one of those things that when our mentor, big brother, and also sits on our board, Dr. Mark Greenberg, when we put together our first physical education yoga curriculum, we put a lot of the topics that we're going to be discussing in Involution Group in there, discussing just a deeper look at the spiritual practice of yoga and, other contemplative practices. And he told us, he was like, look, this curriculum is great, but, you all have to take the yoga out of your yoga curriculum just to be able to get these practices that are here to help us in this human experience. And you will just have to take the shallow practices, take the names off of the Sanskrit names, off of anything that associates with the yoga, with the practice, and deliver these practices for people. So that's what we did. And we've been helping out at a great deal and being respectful of, separation of church and state and, all that stuff, because there have been cases nationally where people have gotten in trouble because they have tried to go deep with the practice. So, Mark Greenberg, once again, definitely made us aware of that. And we have been trying to speak to people in people's language to try to get these human practices across without, pushing any buttons and stuff like that, because we are going into a lot of populations that have no exposure to contemplative practices. So, we do have to have like an entry point, but with the Involution Group, we're trying to meet some of the people who maybe do have a practice where they are and maybe take them a little deeper.
Yeah. And I think just to build on that, I mean, the three of us, our personal practice is a lot different than what we teach in schools with the Holistic Life Foundation. Just because, unfortunately, there's this conception that Sanskrit equals religion, even though it's just a language. So certain terminology, people assume that we would be teaching Buddhism or Hinduism in schools, and Ali Atman and I, none of us, or anyone from the Holistic Life Foundation, none of us are Buddhist or Hindu. We're a completely, secular organization. So we made sure just to be careful that we didn't use a lot of that terminology. And then also some of those concepts that some people may think are religious based. I'm probably preaching to the choir here with everyone who's tuned in, because this is Omega Love here. And we noticed that. And a lot of these practices where we go a little deeper and go a little more inward were a large part of our transformation, I would say, and still are today. So things like discussing and focusing on chakras or mudras and mantras, these are practices that we use in our daily lives that we weren't able to. And we felt like we weren't giving enough. I mean, I think we're doing pretty good. I mean, HLS has been going for 18 years and making a large difference in the world, but we want to give more, and we want to be able to touch on topics that we weren't able to before. So that's ultimately going to be our goal. We do have a platform already. If any of y'all are interested, there's a 30-day trial that you can jump on because we know that everyone's going through stuff. So it's a free 30-day trial. You go to detentiontomeditation.com. You can check it out and sign up. And it's 11 practices that all of y'all can go on. There'll be little animated versions of Ali Atman and I. Will be little cartoons leading you through the practices, just to give you and your family something to do at home right now, lead them through some practices. So check that out. But we'll have a whole lot more to come. Also, every Wednesday right now at 12:30, the three of us do a Facebook Live, 12:30 p.m. Eastern time, just so you know. And we'll be going deeper and deeper and providing practices to society and to the world. So our goal is just to try to bring those practices that really made a large impact on ourselves beyond the ones that we're able to teach in schools to the world, basically. And it's involution, because everyone always we should have a revolution. And that just seems so violent, doesn't it? So we're thinking about evolution, but an inward evolution, hence the name involution.
Thank you. We have another question from Tanya. Tanya, I'm going to unmute you now.
Hi, I'm curious. I'm a school teacher in New York City, and I'm still trying to maintain a yoga and pranayama class for my students. But a lot of them connect on just the physical connection that we have in person. So I'm curious, if you guys are doing remote learning classes with kids, what do those classes look like, and how do you maintain that engagement that you have in live classes?
Yeah, I think it's hard. I was having a discussion the other day with someone. They were talking about starting with a new group online or virtually. And I don't think that's a good idea. You know what I mean? It's hard to build, like you were talking about. They feed off of that connection. You build that trust. They start to break those walls down. You guys bond. And then you can teach them to practice from there. But if it's a group that you've already been working with, I think a lot of the skills that you would use in the classroom could kind of convert, especially if you already have that connection with them and they can actually see your face and you all interacting. I know a lot of what we do is, I think Atman talked about it earlier, is that reciprocal teaching model. So let the kids lead some of the practices, you know what I mean? So they feel a little more engaged and things along those lines, incorporate some things that are going on right now in today's climate that can kind of help them with the struggles that they're going through now. Speak to their struggles and make sure you're having fun with them. I mean, our teacher always told us that if your class wasn't laughing, you're not being a good teacher. So you got to keep them engaged. You got to keep them laughing, because everybody remembers, if you remember the teachers that you love the most, they're probably the ones that had you laughing and had you smiling and had you happy. They were teaching you a lot, but they also made it enjoyable. All the teachers in my mind from kindergarten, elementary school, middle school, high school, college, the ones that were the most entertaining were the ones that stood out the most to me.
It's nice to see you too, Tanya.
Yeah, what's up, Tanya?
Hi.
How you been?
It's been good.
Hey, we also have another question here from Katie. Katie, I'm going to unmute you now.
Hello. Thank you guys so much for sharing your wisdom. And I just wanted to hear from you about your personal practice for maintaining unconditional self-love and how you would teach that to kids or adults.
One of y'all want to do the bhakti thing?
I was just going to say, it's just know that it's a process and it's not going to be easy. You all can talk about the body. I was just going to say, like, I know through when you're on the path and you start going inward, you're going to be faced with all the ugly parts of yourself that you may not like and you may not love, but those ugly parts are the parts that got to you to where you are on the path also. So there's like a place for all of that. But like, I think that's the reason a lot of people shy away from a meditation practice, because like, as you start to go inward and there's that stillness, like you're literally staring in the mirror at all those dark parts of yourself that you may not love or may not want to connect to, but that you have to work your way through. Like you can't just circumvent. You can't just jump out of the way and like, I'm just not going to worry about that. Cause like, if you believe in reincarnation or not, like you might not deal with this incarnation, but the next time around, you're going to have to deal with that. So you might as well deal with it now and face it. So I think it's just understanding that it's a process, understanding that you do have to love yourself, understanding that like deep down, we are all perfect. Like there's that perfect spark. There's that light inside of every single one of us that shines, and connecting to that and getting deeper and deeper and closer to that in your practice. I think that helps you to love yourself, but knowing that it's not easy and it's a process. And there are going to be times that you're not going to be happy with yourself. You are going to hate yourself, but you just have to kind of work through those and really, really remember, like constantly remind yourself how divinely infinite that we all are, and keep connecting to that part of yourself while working through all the other stuff too. So it's a process.
And also, I know if you're looking for a specific practice, that website that Andy gave you all with the 11 evidence-based practices, there is one practice that really we've seen it empower students and get them to a point where they're able to forgive people who have done a lot of wrong to them. And the main point of that practice is kind of starting with that inner foundation of self-love and taking care of yourself, to make sure that it's easier to love and take care of others without burning yourself out. It's a version of a loving kindness practice. But we've seen kids who, like I said, they've been through a lot of trauma. I'm not going to go into the detail of their trauma, but when asked about their trauma, they talk about, well, you know what? I don't even focus on hating them. All I do is send them love, and I don't even think about them. And then I just love myself. You know what I mean? So it's a total reframing of your mind and the way that society has you thinking. And, that really comes with the practice.
Something I could add is just to talk about unconditional love more with that concept of bhakti. It's something that Uncle Will used to always say to us. And he used to always take the word respect and he'd break it down into two parts. So he'd say respect is re and spect. So spect is like spectacles, he would say, like to look. And re is like again. So he said, when you respect, and when you really respect, what you're doing is you're looking again. So as you start walking through life, start respecting everything and everyone. So when I look at you, I look all these faces on this screen, all these beautiful faces. I see you as who you are right now. And then I look again and I see that infinite within you, that same infinite that is within me, and that we are one. And I love you unconditionally, because all you are is a reflection of myself. We are all just a bunch of atoms and stardust, right? That together we form these bodies and experiences, and we don't have to go through what we're going through. But when you really learn to look again and you start seeing yourself in everyone, then that unconditional love starts to really become easy. And then you see it even further. I see it in the brick behind me, in the painting. I see it in the plants. I see it in the flowers, in the animals. I see it in inanimate objects, in the cup. I look again and I see its purest form, which is what we are, and I love it. And I think that concept is what really, really got me to learn unconditional love the most. It really transformed who I am as a human being, as a soul. And you couple that with, my mom was a big lover, and I mean, L-O-V-E, L-O-V-E, like our teacher used to always say all the time. So.
Okay, I'm going to go to one more question. We have Sharon. I'm going to unmute you, Sharon, and please let us know what you're thinking.
Hi. So my name's Sharon, and I live in Sandown, New Hampshire, and have been trained in a lot of mindfulness practices. I work at a middle school as an occupational therapist. So I work with a lot of students who definitely struggle with learning and don't really feel valuable. But my school is just has such a hard time accepting mindfulness, and I can't figure out how to get them on board. And I'm wondering if your program and your training helps teachers like myself to let the administration see the importance of these practices, and especially in this time, because right now I feel like mindfulness is way more important than academics. I don't feel like our kids are probably learning anything online. I feel like they're too stressed out. They're in their lizard brain. So just your thoughts on that.
I feel like this would be a good time to talk about our training at Omega, but I mean, hopefully we can figure out a way to bring it online, because we definitely do a good job of teaching the practice, but our buddy Satbir Khalsa, who's a researcher from a professor up at Harvard School of Medicine, comes down and he does an entire day on all of the research behind why these practices work, and he gives you a copy of the PowerPoint that he uses, so you're fully armed. Like, because most people you're going to pull either from an experiential practice or the research or data. So like if you can hit them with all three, like it's gonna pull at something on them. And starting small at a school is the best way to do it. Like even if you started with an after school club for some kids that were interested, or just a single classroom, like people are gonna start to take notice of the difference in those kids and their connection to themselves, their connection to each other, their self-regulation skills, their empathy, their compassion, like and the love that they're kind of exuding. So just a couple tips.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So my friends, I think we're probably going to close in a couple of minutes. I'm wondering if you want to leave us anything while we're all locked down in our separate places. Give us some guidance about how we can see a way through this and come together when we come out.
I mean, just enjoy the slower energy and the slower pace. I mean, and stay away from the news as much as possible. I mean, the numbers, there's other things that you can do with your time and with your life. It's springtime. I know in some cities it's harder than others to get outside and take a breath of fresh air. Connect with people. I know we're doing a really good job of connecting with people. A lot of it's been virtual, but I mean, like, even just connecting with you all, like I wouldn't be doing this afternoon if it wasn't for technology. Like I wouldn't be, like I never really had a pranayama practice with my parents until this all started, and we've been doing it on FaceTime, like calling people, reaching out to people, and just looking for the small blessings day to day. I think that's something that everybody can do.
Yeah, I just before I give the little tip, I just want to thank Omega for this. At the intro with the video, it was tough to see the grounds, and it's going to be tough that we're not going to be there this year. We know you're doing it for the right cause, but we love Omega so much. All the staff members that we're not going to be able to see their smiling faces, we love them so much. With virtual hugs to all of you. Y'all are amazing. You always make our year. And I would just say, just breathe. I like what I said. Just connect with the loved one. Call someone today. Tell them you love them. And don't forget that love is the most powerful force in the universe, y'all. And we love each and every one of you.
I guess the last thing that I would say is just like when, because like the reality is, curveballs might get thrown your way. When they do, just be mindful of it, be aware of it, adjust your life as you need to. And remember, the next day gives you an opportunity to begin again and fight that much harder at whatever you love or whatever you are striving to better in your life. So just, I guess, remember, it's okay. Things may adjust in your life. Things may be chaotic, but you can always begin again. And that's the main part of living the practice instead of just doing the practice on your mat.
Thank you so much, all three of you, for the work you do and for what you shared today. It's really great to see you and hear you.
Always a pleasure, Michael.
Love you, Michael.
Y'all, brother, Michael. We love you. We love all of y'all. Have a wonderful day. Be blessed.
Peace.
Peace.